All right, welcome back to Blue by 90. I'm Justin, joined by Tanner, and we've got a special guest, friend of the pod, Chris Wormley, former Michigan captain, co-host of the Stadium and Made pod on our network here. Chris, appreciate you joining us here, man. It is, I feel like after listening to you and Strack and Jake Butt talk the other day, I was just like, I love talking ball so much and talking and listening to guys talk ball, and you're just a ball player. So I appreciate you coming on and talk some more ball with us.
Absolutely. This is I got one more event tomorrow, or another live pod tomorrow with Jake on campus. I think it's at a frat house. So I'm making my media rounds. Usually it's just once a week with Strack, but yeah, whenever someone wants to talk ball, I'm willing to talk.
Yeah, I heard you were gonna hold up Jake for the keg stand. I think that's what you said in the show.
It was the other way around.
Oh, it was the other way around. My bad.
I haven't done a keg stand since probably 2015. So those days are long gone.
Yeah, man. Well, we might have to come check that out. Say hi to you. Say hi to Jake. But no, appreciate you coming on, man. I think this is a time right now. Michigan. I'm just going to jump right into it with Michigan sitting at 4-2. You've got two losses to two really good teams, in my opinion, right? You don't have a bad loss. Now, we can be honest and say that we have not looked good in those losses. And even in some of the wins, haven't looked like things are, all, on all cylinders type of thing. But I actually chose to where is it? I chose to wear my national championship hat here that I got, my national championship shirt, because I just want to get some good vibes going. I think we need some good vibes put out into the universe, into the Twitter sphere, into all that. I want to talk a little bit with you just about it's not that bad right now. Yes, we are all concerned, and we can, panic a little bit and want Michigan to win by 100 every single day. But Michigan's still in a pretty damn good spot with the program right now.
Yeah, I mean, I usually want Michigan to win by 90, but 100 is good too.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, listen, I've been with Hoke when we went 5-7 and 14 2 years ago when I was playing for the Carolina Panthers. We went 2-15, and that when you talk about bad situations, bad culture, bad locker room, bad coaching, those are the things that you look at and you're like, man, I'm glad Michigan's not in that position anymore. I would love to be sitting and had played my whole entire career with a Harbaugh or with a Sharon Moore that gets the guys going, brings in the talent, and can coach their ass off. Obviously, 4-2 is not where everybody wants to be. 15-0 is always the goal, and every team, except for maybe one or two a year, falls short of that. There's still a lot to play for these last 6 weeks of the season. I'm excited for these boys to bounce back. Sharon wore his work coat to a presser, which for some reason people didn't like, but we've been doing that since 2015. I think when Harbaugh first got there.
Yeah.
It sends a message that they're trying to get back to their roots, and it's not as bad as you think. So I'm excited for them to come out at home, a noon kickoff against the Huskies, and put on a show.
Chris, what's it like? As fans, we all freak out. I'm guilty of that for sure. But as a player, being in that building, knowing what you have to do to get back on track or get to where you want to go, what is how different is kind of that vibe in the building coming off a loss versus a win? And I'm not talking like a big win. I'm just talking you got your job done versus, man, we fell short on the road.
Yeah, I mean, it's never as bad as it seems, and it's never as good as it seems. It's always somewhere in the middle. No matter if you win by 60 against Central Michigan, or you get your butt kicked by USC. So you go in, you watch the film, you see where you can get better. But after a loss, everyone understands the situation. There's not a lot of smiles. There's not a lot of joking around. You're getting in, you're going to work, you're putting in that time that you need to continue to get better. Because that's one of the beautiful things about football is, unless it's the last game of the season, there's always another week to play, another week to get better, another week to prove to yourself and the fans that you guys are better than what you displayed last week if you lost. And if you won, you want to continue that streak and continue to build off of it.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Sharon wearing the work jacket thing, I think a lot of that is just like dumb Ohio State fans that are just like trying to take any jab that they can at every chance. But there were some Michigan fans who like had a big issue with it. To me, that's 99% of the time just like it's fun if you're winning, and if you're losing, it's stupid as hell, right? And it's like, whatever. Like that's the perception. It's the same thing of like you go for two or you go for it on fourth down. Like you're the smartest man alive if you get it, and you're the dumbest man alive if you don't, And so that's my take on that. You can dive into that if you want to. But I also no, I just lost my train of thought. So we'll go with that. Touch on that for a second.
No, yeah, I mean, I like when a coach sends a message. If they fell off track for a week or two and they want to get back on track, it starts with the head coach. It starts with the guy at the top, and he's the one that's going to set the tone each week. And he's the one that has to keep a level head, no matter what the situation is. Like I said, he doesn't want to get too high or too low, and nobody does in that building. But at the end of the day, if he wants to, express to the country and to the fans that they're willing to go back to work, maybe like it's a camp practice, and to work out those kinks and iron out some things, I'm all for it. Whatever you have to do to win, and that should be the mindset throughout the whole entire building, is players, coaches, training staff, strength coaches, nutritionists, whatever. Let's do what we can, do your part to win a game, and it starts with Washington on Saturday.
Go ahead, David.
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned Washington. Outside of the Ohio State game, which I think we unfortunately can all agree Ohio State's defense is pretty damn legit, might be even better than last year's. That offense is hummed. I mean, they kind of got put into a locker for 3 quarters against Maryland, and then it was just 24 straight points to win the game. So they've been humming all year. Chris, what do you think as a guy who played at the highest level defensively? And what are you seeing from Michigan's defense that caused them a lot of issues against USC on Saturday? And then what are you looking to see from them to kind of bounce back against this explosive Washington offense?
I mean, my biggest takeaway from that game, it wasn't scheme and schematic, and you guys can go into that, and people on Twitter can go into that, and I know the coaches have, in the building, but they just didn't tackle. There were so many plays where they just missed tackles in space, one-on-one. And if you're going to be a great defense, or if you're going to be a team that hangs their hat on defense, which Michigan has for as long as I can remember, you have to be able to tackle in space, gang tackle, get to the ball. And for a large part of that game, I did not see that. And that to me was the most frustrating thing, because you can have the perfect play, you can have the worst play, but if you don't have guys flying to the ball, wrapping up and tackling, you're going to have a bad day, no matter what the scheme is or how great of a play you called on that certain play. The tackling, I think, needs to be cleaned up, and I think that's going to be a point of emphasis this week in practice.
Yeah, and what's something that we talked about earlier this week on our post game pod from the USC game was just the leadership in that building. You go back to a lot of people are obviously talking about Sharon more right now, and the coaching staff and all that stuff, which is fine. That's what they're paid to do. They can take criticism. We were talking a little bit about the 2023 team and just how many different guys on that team were leaders. You could probably, you as a captain yourself, you're looking around that locker room in 2023 and like you could pick 15 different guys that had the qualifications to be a captain, and if they were on a different team probably would have been voted that and so now after a game where, as you just said, like guys just didn't execute to the level that they needed to. What are you as a captain, as a leader in that building, going back and saying to your teammates to try and get guys like, hey, we can't collapse right now. I know we're 4-2. It's not where we want to be. We need to get back in there, get working, get things right. Like, how do you manage the culture of the building when things are just like it? Sometimes, I don't know if this is just an outside thing, but a lot of, things, it feels like the walls are closing in and everything's falling apart. You know what I mean? At that moment, what are you trying to do as the captain?
Yeah, you got to right the ship. You got to make sure that your guys aren't, like you said, falling apart, giving up on the season, because at 4-2, it's not the best, but if you win out and go 10-2, I believe they're going to be in the playoffs. 10-2 usually gets you in, especially if you're a team like Michigan. You beat Ohio State at the end of the year. I know that's 5-6 weeks away from now, but as a captain, and for me, it was easy back in 2016. Like we had, obviously me and Jake Butt, but we had Jordan Lewis and the offensive line were all seniors mostly. So we had a group of guys that understood the situation, a lot of upperclassmen. And even this year with the 2025 season players, you got guys like Rod Moore and Klein who have been in the building for a while. And who else is Al-Hadi, who's been around for a while. So those guys have to, first and foremost, they can't be the ones that are, slipping up and having a bad attitude. They have to be the ones that set the example in that locker room and on that field every single day. It's not just the coaches. The coaches can scream about culture and sticking together until they're blue in the face. But if you're a player, especially if you're a captain or an older guy, you have to set that example, whether that's with your words, with your actions, whatever it is. You have to continue to have that positive attitude when things aren't looking the best.
Can you maybe remember a time as a captain yourself, or even when you were younger looking up to a captain? I would love to hear about maybe both sides. One, when you're sitting at 5-7 and things aren't right, and like sometimes the best way to know what good leadership is to see bad leadership, right? And so maybe, not that I want you to call somebody out, but you know what I mean? Like maybe there's some examples of both of that, and then the other side where it's like, hey man, when things aren't going well, or when things are going great on the outside, I know situations for a lot of teams, you're 7-0 or whatever, things look awesome on the outside and shit's falling apart on the inside, So I don't know if you have any examples of those that you've experienced yourself.
Yeah, I mean, definitely my first 3 years at Michigan with Hoke weren't the best, and the leaders weren't the best either. I'm not going to call any names or point anybody out, but as a underclassman, I'm looking like, this is what it means to be a leader on the team. This is what it means to be somebody who we're supposed to look up to and follow. So when I became captain, I wasn't the biggest kind of rah-rah guy. I was more lead by example, and that's what I tried to prove every day, whether that was how I prepared for a game, how I watched film, how I helped the younger guys out. But there were some times, especially that my last year when we lost to Iowa on a last-second field goal. Instead of pouting and being mad, you have to be the one that gets into the locker room and make sure the guys aren't falling apart. We lose to Ohio State on the JT Barrett was short drive. That whole event was devastating. I was on that play with Delano Hill when we thought that we had stopped JT, and the next play, Curtis Samuels goes and scores the game-winning touchdown.
You're reminding us of terrible moments right now.
Yeah, but that's what you're talking about. Like it could be a lot worse. You could lose to Ohio State on the last play of the game and have to be that captain that, I was sad, I was pissed off, but at the same time, like I have to be accountable not just to myself, but to the team, because they voted me as a captain. They're looking for someone to lead them and to let them know that it's going to be okay in a dark situation.
When you're a captain, you mentioned leading by example. Was there ever a time where you kind of had to have like difficult conversations with either guys in your room or on the defense or just on the team? Like, did you have to have those moments of like with younger guys or even guys that were in your class that like, hey, this is not the standard, this is not what we do? Like, did you have to have those difficult conversations?
Oh yeah, and those are the worst ones, because sometimes they're your friends, or they're somebody that you rely on a week-to-week basis. There were some younger guys in that 16 season that we relied on that played as true freshmen or redshirt freshmen / sophomores, and some of them at certain points of the season weren't holding up to the expectations that no matter what your age is, you have to go out there and perform. And I'm not going to MF anybody, but I'm going to, hey man, like let's pick it up. Like if you need help, like especially if it's a defensive lineman, like I got you. Like I'm here to help. I'm here to help you out in any situation you need, whether it's on the field or off the field. Those are the type of things that, as a leader, that how I like to lead and how I want somebody to treat me as a leader, or when they're a leader. That's how I wanted to be. That's how I wanted to lead and be that type of person for the team.
Yeah, the one thing I was going to ask too, you mentioned earlier, you said nobody's smiling on the way home and stuff like that. We did actually see, on the sideline, like, it's a tough screenshot when you're down 3 scores or whatever, and your quarterback smiling on the sideline. And I think, Coach Moore had a smile on there too. Do you read into that at all? Or is it, tough time for cameras to catch them, and it could have been a certain situation there? We could have been reading it completely wrong.
Yeah, I think in those situations, especially when it's a screenshot and it's not like a 15 to 20-second video of like an actual entire scene, like you never really know what's going on. Obviously, it's not a great look, but I don't read too much into a single screenshot or a single picture of somebody smiling. Like that for me, I'm not going to look into that. I know people like to have fun with that, but to me, it's a nothing.
I've laughed being mad before.
Oh yeah.
Right. So to your point, Chris, it's hard to read into stuff like that. You have no idea of context, anything like that.
Yeah. Definitely agree. I think, again, it's so hard as you look at a Bryce Underwood, right? And he's 18 years old and has had cameras in his face since he was like 14, and still now has cameras on him at all times. And it's one of those things that, it's probably just an unfortunate situation at the time and doesn't mean much, but as we're looking forward now, you've got Washington on, coming into town, big home game. All of a sudden, it's kind of a must-win game, in my opinion, right? Because otherwise, just for this season, playoff contention or whatever else. You're fighting for playoffs every single week, but also just the momentum of the program. I think in the transfer portal world, I mean, you look at what's happening at Penn State right now, you look at what's happening a lot of places, things can crumble really, really quickly. I actually saw a clip of a reporter asking Ryan Day about this today, and he had a great answer basically of just like, listen, you can't you still got to come to work every day with a plan and execute your plan. And you can't let what's happening right now deter you from what's ahead of you. So as these guys are coming into the building this week, what is the mindset of like, hey, we're still, doing what we got to do. We go into practice. We've got our practice plan. We've got all that stuff. Is there any like tightness? Is there any deterrence from what the plan was originally, or is it just full go ahead?
I mean, maybe there's, I as a player, I'd feel some tightness, like, especially if I'm a senior or somebody that's looking to go to the NFL and there's only a certain amount of weeks left that I have to play at the University of Michigan. I'm feeling some type of way, and I think that's good. I think a little stress, a little I wouldn't say anxiety, but a little pressure is good. Go in there, show on a day-to-day basis that you're putting in the work, and let's get back to Michigan football. Let's get back to what our identity is, and I think especially in those 2 losses, you're kind of scratching your head like, what is our identity when we're on offense? What is our identity when we're on defense? And it seems like maybe when the games get a little tighter, when the moments get pretty big, it's like you got to stick to your identity. You can't go and change things up. You can't go and switch up your play calling. You got to stick to what you know, stick to what you're good at. And maybe at halftime or you come off the sideline, you make tweaks here and there. But for the most part, you got to stick to what Michigan football is. That's playing great defense. That's running the ball and having a great offensive line that can move people and impose their will on opponents. So I'm looking forward to them to getting back to what they do well. I'm really hoping Justice Haynes is healthy and the situation isn't as worse as they're trying to make it seem or not seem, but get back to Michigan ball. And I think a win on Saturday will cool a lot of heads off and make people feel a lot better, because 5-2 looks a hell of a lot better than 4-3.
Chris, former defensive end, obviously. And one thing I noticed was the amount of I felt like Derek Moore had about 50% of the snaps in this USC game. TJ Guy only played 15 snaps. Because I can tell you in 2016, Chris, I wanted you on the field, man. Like, I was really excited about those young guys, obviously Rashawn Gary and some other really talented players. And it's kind of a similar situation where in 16 and this year, there's a lot of guys that can play, but I want almost 95% of snaps going to Derek Moore, because that guy has been really, really, really good at Michigan. Do you read into that? I mean, you played at Michigan, you played under Wink. Like, What are your thoughts? Do you know, is it fair or foul to have Derek Moore getting 50% of the snaps in a game against USC?
Yeah, I'd love to see Derek get a few more steps, especially after the game he had. I think it was against Nebraska a few weeks ago. I thought was kind of his coming out party for the season. It was his, I thought, best at least production game of the year. Yeah, he's got to get more snaps. He's one of the, obviously he's a captain. He's one of the guys that stuck around and kind of gone through that Harbaugh transition. And if he's only getting 50% of the snaps, there's something that's going on, and I'm not too sure what that is, but I would want him to get upwards of 75% of the snaps. Obviously, Barham on the other side is going to play a good chunk of plays as well, but everyone's going to need a break at some point on that defensive side of the ball. But as Derek Moore, I'm looking to get more snaps as well.
Yeah,
I'm glad I'm not going crazy. I just wanted to make sure. I was like, what's going on?
No, yeah. Listen, back in 2016, I had Rashawn as my backup, and I knew what the type of player he was going to be. But at that time, I was still that guy. I was 4 years older than him or whatever, but I knew that my time was still now, and he would have 2 years at Michigan after that to show everybody what he was. And obviously, he's having a phenomenal career in the NFL. But as a guy who's stuck around as a senior and a captain, Derek Moore, I know is looking for more snaps for sure.
Was there ever a moment with you and Rashawn where you're like, all right, little boy, you'll have your time, but right now is my time. You got to step back for a minute.
No, man. I think I told the story a couple weeks ago on the pod with Jordan. And it was like, I thought I was going to either have to transfer or be a backup. And Willie Henry at the time was thinking of either leaving for the draft or coming back. And he eventually left, but there was a period where I'm like, man, this is the number one recruit. Rashawn, he's coming in. He's looks like a 25-year-old man already at 17, 18 years old. I thought I was going to have to move inside. I gained a bunch of weight. I was like pushing 320. And when they said, hey, you're the guy still, I'm like, all right, cool. I don't think I was ever too worried, but as I look back at it, I'm like, man, this could have went different. If they were trying to push their number one recruit to start and play right away, I don't know how many years in the league I would have played if that was the case. But things like that, like Rashawn, he understood the situation. I think he was, you could tell he was ready to play ball right away, but we just had some guys. We had some guys on that D-line in 2016.
Man, outside of I think it's really close with 23 and 16. Man, that 16 defense. I mean, that Penn State game, I was 21 at the time, Chris. So, we're about the same. We're all about the same age. You're on the field. I'm eating, I think, chicken wings, watching the game, having a beer, and you're getting after old Trace McSorley. So
yeah, it was fun. I think Saquon had 45 yards of rushing or something like that. I think he was a freshman, but obviously what he's doing in the league now is pretty cool to be able to talk with the guys that played with us on that defensive side.
You guys shut him down twice.
Yeah.
And then his junior year, after your class left, he had his revenge.
Yeah, he had a day. He had a day for sure.
That was was DPJ on that team or not yet?
That was
I never played with DPJ.
Okay. Well, I feel like it was there were a couple years when Michigan and Penn State were going back and forth, and I think DPJ started doing the Saquon Waddle, his Selly.
That was a revenge tour year that Chase Winovich talked about.
2018, yeah.
Good old Chase.
Yeah. Those are some good battles. Also, okay. Obviously, you've never been a coach, but you've been around some unbelievable coaches in your tenure. John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, Jim Harbaugh, Wink Martindale. The list goes on and on. You look at what James Franklin just got fired, right? And Penn State went from 15 days ago, I saw that tweet. It was 15 days ago or something when, they're, I don't know, 2 plays away from winning that Oregon game and everything's completely different, right? And then all of a sudden he's fired. Are you this kind of goes back to the mentality question that we had a little bit ago, but if you're Sherrone Moore right now, is there a moment where you're looking around like, damn, that happened real fast? And, is there like, should I be worried? What's going on? Is there, do you think that coaches like think about that, or is it again just kind of like put your blinders on and go to work?
I mean, I think every coach thinks about that. I mean, there's maybe one coach that I can think of that Nick Saban was probably the only one that never had to worry about his job.
Yeah.
I remember, Harbaugh in 2020, like there was all those rumors, like, is he getting fired? So I think every coach thinks about it, especially because of how many times they have to get up and move, whether that's their own fault being, as an assistant, or they're the head coach and they're just not getting the job done. I think that Sharon thinks about it, but I don't think he thinks he's going to get fired anytime soon. I don't think he's going to get fired anytime soon.
I'm in agreement there for sure.
Yeah. The seat gets hotter as every loss that they have. But at the same time, like I think he sleeps okay knowing that like I'm going to be around for a little bit, but also like I got to produce. I got to win games. I got to put my players in the best position to win. I got to put my coaches in the best position to win. And that, as a head coach, you're the CEO of a company basically, and you got to get your guys to perform at a high level. So you not only you keep your job, but coaches can ascend and go other places in better positions, or you keep your guys and keep them hired. It's a tough position to be in, but guys like Sharon, I know are built for that situation, and they want that. You don't get that far as a head coach or as a coach in general and not be ready for the situation or not know what comes with the territory of being a head coach.
I just got to say, I would love to be fired for like $45 million, guys. Just throwing that out into the ether.
Listen, I know James Franklin is probably pissed.
Of course.
But then he's like, let me get that $55 million, and I'm going to take all that, and I'm going to go somewhere, and I'm going to be just fine.
Yeah.
I feel like you're obviously so mad and disappointed because, in the moment and probably forever will be, right? Like, when you get to that level, you're a psychopath and all you want to do literally every single second you're thinking about winning. And I'm sure he had that dream from day one of, doing what Jim Harbaugh did and then finally hoisting that trophy after all of the ups and downs. Right. And then you go on a cruise. And
I'm not going on a cruise with $55 million. I'm taking a private jet somewhere.
Yep.
And what did was it Cliff Kingsbury? He was in like Thailand for like 3 months, and they called him and
he was like, sabbatical.
He's like, "No, I'm good.
I'm okay. Thank you."
And kept living his life. So
he's got the clause that he has to try to find work. Like he has to, in good faith, try to be employed.
I saw it. It could be a media job though, so I say we hire him.
Hire him.
We'll take we'll take just a 1 million of the however many million. Like we'll take that, and then we'll that'll be his job. So you're open offer to James Franklin.
If he's listening,
yeah, he does listen. He did. I'm sure he does. All right, so back to this week, though. Michigan, again, the Huskies are coming to town. It is, it does feel like that must-win week. And I don't think, I think there are a lot of people out there. It's a, loud minority, right, probably, of people that are like, if you don't win this week, you have to fire him, which is insane talk because he's 18 months into the job, with a freshman quarterback that's the best player best player in the country from a recruit standpoint and has all the tools. You got 2 5-star tackles coming in that will play for you next year. You're recruiting at a super high level. Like we just got to stop with that as a fan base. But from a direction and where the program is going, it feels like a must-win week in terms of let's keep the momentum going. Let's, like I said, with the transfer portal and you lose and all of a sudden Oregon's calling every one of your players. That's just how it works these days. So I think that, this is where I'm sitting here with Wink, looking at Wink Martindale, who is your guy. We know that for sure. And I'm a bit the people that are like, oh, you got to fire Wink. Before USC, he gave up like 0 yards to Wisconsin, which I know they're a terrible offense. So, there is a caveat to that. But they're, I'm looking at Wink Martindale like, all right, we do got to get our shit together really quickly. And you got to go out and put a performance together against a really good Jedfish Washington offense.
Yeah. And Wink spent, I don't know, 99% of his career in the NFL. So like you lose 2 games in the NFL, it's like, okay, let's go back to work. There's, 17 games. You can go 8-8 and make the playoffs.
Right.
There's a little more sense of urgency in college. And I know he understands that. And I know that he's looking forward to putting a stout Michigan defense game plan together for this upcoming week. It's going to take not just him, but his staff to get on board, dive in a little deeper, stay maybe a couple hours later than they normally do. Because when you talk about, people's jobs being on the line, like it's not just the head coach. The head coach goes, everyone goes. Usually that's how it goes. So I know those guys are in the building are feeling the pressure, but at the same time, they just have to go back to and doing what they're doing, to doing what they know what to do, and that's playing Michigan defense. The standard doesn't change no matter who's in there or who's coaching. There's people that have been watching Michigan football for a very long time, and they have an expectation. These players have an expectation to go out there and play a certain way. They just have to go out there and execute. I know Wink's going to have a great game plan, but then also you got to put some onus on the players to go out there and execute that play. Execute that game plan, tackle, not play 12 yards off, check out of a 7-man box when it's empty, and go out there and play Michigan defense. I'll keep saying that, I guess, until I'm blue in the face, but I'm excited for this challenge for them.
Chris, when you were in college and you were going up against, because you played some mobile quarterbacks, maybe not the shiftiness, and I mean, this Damon Williams kid is a star. I mean, he's throwing for 1,600 yards, but he's also running the ball extremely well. He's only got 1 pick on the year. When you were preparing and you were getting coached, and you were watching film on an opponent with a mobile quarterback like that, like what was the most important kind of point of emphasis from the coaching staff? Was it the rush lanes? Was it something else? Like what was that like? Because Michigan's those defensive ends and those D linemen are going to kind of have those same conversations this week.
Yeah, I mean, even just going back to like my professional career playing against Lamar and Josh Allen, it's like you have to keep those guys in the pocket. Their numbers are significantly worse when they're in the pocket. And letting those guys buy time, getting 3 guys on the defensive line to one side of the ball and giving him a rush lane up the B gap is not going to fly. Knowing what coverage you're in as a defensive lineman is huge, because if you're in a cover one and all the DB's backs are turned and everyone's covering somebody, and you get out of your rush lane, there's 10-15 yards before anybody even notices that the quarterback is running. So this is going to be a game plan of not just doing the fundamentals, but like knowing where that quarterback is at all times, having the right game plan to make sure he doesn't get out of the pocket or run up the middle. It's going to be challenging. He's obviously the best player on the team, so he's going to be he's going to have numero number 1 or whatever the hell you want to say to stop him. But at the end of the day, they have to, especially the defensive line, keep their rush lanes, keep them contained, and I think they'll have a lot of success if they can do those 2 things.
What do you take from looking at what happened versus USC, where I thought, listen, I am no X's and O's guru by any means, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I played offense, but I thought that after the first drive, it was very obvious that they were going to let us over pursue upfield on defense and dink and dunk right over the top of us, and we just never really made an adjustment all day. What's your take on that? Why that happened? And then also, how do you stop that from happening again once a team sees that on film? They're like, oh shit, that worked really well, we should try to do the same. How do you stop that from happening again?
Yeah, as a defensive lineman, you have to know who you're going up against. You have to know what type of quarterback you're going up against. You have to know what type of offensive lineman you're going up against. And when they're just letting you run by them and then you just kind of dump the ball off, you have to realize that there's those small in-game adjustments that you have to make, and you have to realize, whether that's people up top, watching and seeing how the game is unfolding from a bird's eye view, players on the field saying, hey, they're letting us do this. we have to sit down more on the line or have a more controlled rush and not let that happen. But, when you go back and you watch the film after the game, those are when you can make the big time adjustments. Obviously, hindsight's always 20/20, but for the next week, you got to understand what's coming, understand what plays worked against you. In the NFL, it's a copycat league. You get gashed on a certain play by the team the week before. The next team's going to look and be like, okay, let's run this play and see if they stopped it. So those first 10 to 15 scripted plays of the game are going to tell a lot and see in terms of, has Michigan figured this out or not on the defensive side of the ball? And if they haven't, Washington's just going to continue to do the same thing for the next 3 quarters or whatever, 3.5 quarters. So I'm looking forward to watching those first 10 to 15 scripted plays, seeing what Jed Fish has planned for this Michigan defense, because it could be a fun, challenging game and they come out on top, or it can be another game like USC where they don't really make too many in-game adjustments and it's a long night or a long afternoon of watching Michigan ball.
Well, Chris, so when you had Jake on the show the other day, I'm editing it, I'm listening to it, and it really is kind of a crossroads moment, at least in the 2025 season, because if you come out and you make a stop and you get them off the field during their scripted drive, and then you let the offense go down the field with Bryce and you score, that can completely change the trajectory of what the program's feeling, what the fans are feeling, what the coaches and players are feeling. But on the flip side, it can completely go complete opposite way too. So I think we all know this is an extremely important game, but I think the game within the game for me is the first 10 minutes of the game, because it's kind of in the same way that USC owned the middle 8, right? Like if Michigan doesn't give up a touchdown there, maybe they're able to go and have a little bit more momentum getting off the field. Instead, you go 3 and out coming out of halftime and it's 21-7. So, 18 to 22-year-olds, man, it's sometimes a crapshoot, and momentum is a huge thing. So I'm really looking for, whether Michigan gets the ball first or they kick off, a good first couple drives, offense defensively, would be huge for everyone, I think.
Yeah, and as a defensive player, I want to be on the field first. We want to defer the kick or have them take the ball, and we want to be the ones that stop them 3 and out. Not a long drive. And these past 2 weeks for Michigan have been, on the defensive side of the ball for that first drive, have been pretty bad. It's been a porous defense, whether it was Wisconsin running down the field, running the ball down the field, or USC kind of airing it out that first drive. So I know they're looking to the defensive side of the ball to not allow them to score, not allow them to have that first drive success that the last 2 weeks have had. Obviously, they bounced back against Wisconsin because that offense was bad, and not obviously not the same against USC when they put up 31. So, like you said, I'm interested to see this first drive. I'm interested to see how they respond to not just last week, but the last 2 weeks, because it can be telling for the rest of the game. To give that offense a chance to go up, being up 7-0 or trying to come back being down by 7-0 is a totally different thing, especially for a young quarterback and their confidence. If they can go down, Bryce can go down there and score right away. I think that leaves a lot of room for some early success and success leading into the rest of the game.
Yeah, and let's talk about the offense for a second, getting more into that. Obviously you're a defensive guy, but you're sitting here with, that the freshman quarterback, obviously. Now you're halfway through the season. So he knows what happens in a collegiate football game, right? So you've got those first game jitters out of the way, feeling a little bit more comfortable with what goes on. But while all that's happening, the offense is sputtering, or at least, I thought it sputtered against obviously USC, but it sputtered a little bit against Wisconsin. And I know that they do have a good defense. That's pretty much their only strength. But, you're looking at that offense against Wisconsin all right, your defense has stopped them literally every drive. Let's go put a bigger lead, put a couple scores on the board, and let's put this thing in the books. What does this offense need to get going a little bit more? You've seen Andrew Marsh come on, you've seen McCulley come on. Obviously, Justice Haynes has been the one thing that we can point to throughout every single game. Again, hopefully he can play. What are you looking for this offense to come out versus Washington to say, all right, listen, we're starting to put it all together here?
I'm looking for consistency. consistency on drives, no more 3 and outs, and then all of a sudden having like really long drives. Let's have some consistency there. Let's have some consistency on the offensive side of the offensive line. I thought they played god awful on Saturday night.
Yep.
I know they're looking to bounce back. I know Grant Newsome is doing everything he can to get those boys right in that offensive line room. But consistency with, obviously, Marsh has come on the last 2 weeks. Let's get a game of 250 yards passing, 150 yards rushing, and a balanced, consistent game, because consistency is key. You can't be too high and too low, up and down, and that's really been the story all season for this offense is just consistency. Let's have a nice, well thought out game plan. Let's go out there and execute it at a high level and put some points up and quiet some of these haters, fans and non-fans alike.
Yeah, I've been pretty. I'm a negative Nelly this week, Chris. Unfortunately, I don't like it, but I am. I just how I am.
So we're trying to shut up Tanner right now.
Please, man, shut me up. No, I wanted to ask with regards to the offensive line. Gio, 5th-year guy, paid his dues, right? Is hurt, comes back in. I thought Central Michigan game as Central Michigan, but I thought through the Nebraska and even Wisconsin, I thought that there were some things that they found. And obviously, in my opinion, I think you want Gio on the field. But do you think there's is there a period of time where it's like, man, you're just not, it was a Phobie, now it's El Hadi for these other guys, for Crippen and for the other guys around him. Like, do you buy into that? Is there is it really going to look that bad during that adjustment period, or is it El Hadi being a little rusty, or a combination of both, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe El Hadi's more hurt than he wants to lead on and let people know, but. We talked about on the pod. There's those 2 younger guys, those 5-star tackles that are one's hurt, one's kind of in the waiting. I think it's Guanera. It looked pretty good. I thought the last 2 games filling in for El Hadi. So, I think as a captain, like you say, you pay your dues, but this is a results driven business, a results driven sport, and you got to produce. Whether you're, the 5th-year guy and getting replaced by Rashawn Gary, like I thought I was in 2016, no matter what I had done the previous 3 seasons. But at some point, you got to produce. You got to put up. Obviously, offensive linemen don't have numbers, but you got to be able to block for Justice and block for Bryce, because that's the name of the game, and that's your job. So. I don't know. I'd give El Hadi another week or 2 to see if he can bounce back from that. And really the whole offensive line.
Yeah,
you can't scrap the whole offensive line, but if in a week or 2 it looks the same, something's got to change.
Yeah. And speaking on,
I don't know what's going on, guys.
Speaking on Bryce too. So, what are you seeing from him specifically? I know that I don't think, my take is they're not putting like everything on his shoulders, which I think is probably a smart play. There was a ton of talk early on about like unleashing Bryce Underwood, right, and like all that type of stuff. What are your thoughts on Bryce Underwood now halfway through his freshman season?
I mean, I think just as like I talked about, just with the offense in general, like it's just consistency. Like, I think obviously there was those first couple of weeks where they were holding him back, and then they kind of unleash him against, I think, Central Michigan. But it's like, I don't know. I didn't really need them to unleash him against Central Michigan. I needed him to unleash him the week before against Oklahoma. And when you look at some of some throws, what was it? Last week against USC, there were some that were kind of in the dirt. So just more consistency in his accuracy. I love when he gets out of the pocket and makes those kind of bullet passes for completions. Those are fantastic. I'd love to see him run a little more. Just, knowing what he can do with his arm and his legs. I think you got to have to showcase what he can do on a more consistent basis. But that seems to be the story that I'm going to continue to talk about on the offense until I see some more of that is consistency. But so far, I've loved for what I've seen from Bryce. Obviously, people want more. I want more out of him. I think he wants more out of himself, which is exciting to see that a player like him knows that there's room for improvement. And I'm excited to see him continue to take those steps moving forward. As long as he can continue to make those steps and make those, small adjustments week in and week out, I'm excited. I'm happy that he's the quarterback for Michigan.
I got to say though, guys, I mean, where we're sitting with him, and yeah, it's been some inconsistencies, but God, it's like 5 or 6 times every week where I'm like, holy shit, he just made that throw. Like even the throw to Marsh, like he kind of adjusts and then just it's almost like a 3/4 throw and just fires that thing in there.
Yep.
And Marsh is able to go. Speaking of, Andrew Marsh has, I think, 8 for 138 and a touchdown. That's just huge for the offense in general. I think his emergence, we've talked about it all year. I know you guys have talked about it too, but like, you know, Donovan McCulley is a really, really good wide receiver, but you need somebody opposite him. What'd you see from Andrew Marsh? I mean, obviously the stats are there, but man, it just feels like he kind of grew up, you know, in like a 2 or 3 week period where in the first part of the season, the first game, he's not ready for a pass on a play that's basically designed for him. So him kind of just maturing so quickly, I think is a great sign for the offense and for the program.
Yeah, I think as he continues, as Bryce continues to evolve, and obviously McCulley's kind of been that number one guy, but it looks like Marsh might be that number one guy now, and is continuing to evolve alongside Bryce. They're going to need each other for the next 2 to 3 years, and that's exciting to see that their chemistry is already pretty solid. At least I thought at the beginning of the season it was going to be those tight ends that were going to be his safety valve and safety blanket, but those guys just haven't produced like we thought they were. That I thought they would, and you know. It's exciting and it's cool to see somebody like Marsh, who is a freshman. He's young. He's still raw, but he's emerging and becoming one of those guys that Bryce is going to lean on for the next 6 weeks. And to see him continue to take those steps alongside Bryce is a positive. It's something that I think Michigan fans should be happy about.
For sure. Well, want to give a shout out to Feldman Chevrolet of Highland. Go check out what they've got going there, as well as Woodson Whiskey. We had a great time with Charles a couple weeks ago, and you know, looking forward to getting back to the tailgate this week with Feldman Chevrolet of Highland as well. Chris, before we jump off here, tell the people a little bit about the Stadium and Maine podcast that you've got going on with Jordan Strack.
Yeah, man, Stadium and Maine pod. It's with me, Chris Wormley, Big Worm, and Jordan Strack. We've teamed up this year with Blue by 90, which is thank you guys for allowing us to be on your guys' platform. And yeah, we're talking Michigan ball. We're bringing on guests every week, and this past week was Jake Butt. He came on and blew Jordan and I out of the water when it comes to the way he talks ball. I'm like, man, like I need to take some notes. But yeah, man, Stadium and Maine pod. Get it on the Blue by 90 YouTube page. Get it on Apple and Spotify podcasts, wherever you get them, and tune in because we got some pretty cool guests coming up in the next couple of weeks as well.
There you go.
Yeah, man.
Go for it, Tanner.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, I've been listening, I've been editing, and it's been awesome. Just you and Jordan, and watching you at Michigan. I mean, I remember when you committed because I was a nerd and I loved, like, I played football and stuff, but I was so invested in Michigan football. So I think we might be like a year apart or like the same high school class. I don't remember. But like, I remember watching you play, and then I've followed Jordan forever. So it's really cool to see you guys on a show. But then some of the guests you bring in. Chase Winovich is a madman. Fun fact, I was in an online dynasty, not on the new games, but the old one, but like 3 years after they stopped making it, the one with the Nard on the cover.
Yeah.
He ran it. He ran the dynasty. I was like, you got it, brother. Randomly was in a dynasty with Chase, but no, they've been crushing it. The podcasts have been awesome. The one with Jake Butt, it's phenomenal. I mean, not even just talking football, Chris, like, we all have, we speak with impressive people, and you hear people speak, or you go to conventions for work, and Jake Butt is as impressive as they come, man. It comes natural to that guy. So go check that podcast out. It's awesome to hear. A little depressing at times, but there's always a way out of this thing. And I'm excited for Saturday, and I'm hoping I'm drinking Woodson whiskey for a good reason, Justin, not to drown my sorrows away.
Yeah. Worm, I do love, I think Strack is an inherent, he's kind of the negative guy on there, while you're like, all right, we're okay. Everything's going to be fine. You're the more realist. So you guys got a good balance going.
Yeah. I mean, I played this game for 20 plus years. I live in Ann Arbor. So if I see Wink in the supermarket or Sharon, and I'm talking some shit. Like, they come up and press me. No, I'm just kidding. I got a lot of faith in those guys. But I will say for this upcoming episode, when it drops on Tuesday, I think people are going to be pretty surprised as to who it is. This guy played back in the mid 2000s, and he doesn't do a whole lot of media, but somehow I got him on the pod, and I think people are going to enjoy it. So it should be a good one.
Yeah, he may or may not throw the ball around a little bit, or have thrown the ball around. So
Matt Gutierrez, you guys are
good. I'm excited. Well, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's awesome to be able to chop it up with you and just get your knowledge as well. We can get, hopefully, I think we just got to continue. Obviously, we'll see what happens on Saturday, but continue the, it's not as bad as you think it is campaign that we have. And the, hey, the world isn't ending. I've got a good friend who will text me all the time on Sundays after, we do take an unfortunate loss. And he's like, well, the sun still came up this morning. It's, we're still all alive, so, but thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited, for you at the frat tomorrow too. I feel like this could be like a Project X situation in the making.
I pray that it's not. I don't know if my body could take that. Calling my wife at 2 a.m. to come pick me up, I don't think she'd be too happy either. But no, it should be fun. I'm excited to talk with Jake. It's going to be fun. It's going to be light. We're going to talk, obviously Michigan ball, but include some fun things in there as well. So it should be good.
There you go. All right. Well, for us, you can follow us at Blue by 90 on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Blue by 90 Podcast on YouTube, and blueby90.com. We appreciate you. Go Blue.
Go Blue.